Good evening, friends. Welcome to the Seven Pillars Talk Show, where we talk about the seven pillars that are needed to creating your unbreakable life. Now, just a quick reminder. It takes work to become unbreakable. There are so many things in our lives that really would like to slow us down. Why? Because it wants to steal your power and the purpose that was placed in your heart. But guess what? You are made for so much. And we're going to dig into that tonight as we dig into the Seven Pillars Talk Show. And just a quick reminder, the seven pillars, we're going to go through them because I think it's always important to reestablish what they are. Number one is self-discovery. Who you are matters and who you are makes a difference. But sometimes we have to discover that. Sometimes there's things in life that are going to nag at us and pull at us and make us pick up all these hats that really aren't our identity, but we end up picking them up and thinking that they are, and we forget who we are. So pillar one is self-discovery. Pillar two is our mindset and mind shifting. And if you remember, last week, we met with the amazing Felicia Reed, and she talked to us all about mindset. Pillar three is our belief systems and how we pick up those beliefs and maybe the limitations that we place around those beliefs. Pillar four is our defining moments. Those defining moments that put us on a trajectory of greatness, or sometimes are trauma, and sometimes they're just moments that are maybe a spoken word that place us in one direction or another. Pillar five is health. Health. Our health is our wealth. And when we have a healthy body, that leads into our healthy minds and our healthy spirit. Pillar six is community. And we need people. We need like-minded people that are going to embrace us and walk this unbreakable journey with us. And finally, pillar seven is purpose. And once you walk through those pillars and you know exactly who you are, my friends, we establish, create, and build an unbreakable life. Well, today we have an amazing friend with us, LaFleur Anders. I don't want to say it wrong. With oh my gosh. Okay, well, I already messed that up, but we are going to be talking about unlocking creativity in your mind. She is with Chestnut Publish.
It's early.
It is early. It's early, and you're seeing it late, but it really is early for us. Okay, please tell us the name of your business, because clearly I need a card to tell me that.
Well, it's a lot to say too. It's a mouthful between my name and the name of the business.
Yes.
So Chestnut Publishing House.
Thank you. Chestnut Publishing House. Well, okay. It's so fun how God connects you with like-minded people and new friends who you get together and you feel like, well, we've known each other forever, even though we haven't. We literally just met today.
Yeah.
But how fun is that to see us both in this place in our lives where we could have met years ago, essentially. We were talking about coffee mugs earlier and how we belong to the same networking groups.
Yeah.
And all these times where our paths literally could have crossed with where we've lived before, with the line of work that we do, but it didn't. Mm-hmm. It didn't until such a time as this. And I think that's so powerful. But Kay, I would love for you to just introduce yourself to our audience, the Unbreakable online community, and of course, my YouTube and Facebook community. I want you to just tell them a little bit about who you are, and then we're going to dig into getting some creative juices flowing.
Awesome. Well, I'm LaFleur Anders. I am a Louisiana girl. I always start with that because if you hear the accent, the countryness, it's because of Louisiana.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, it's a real thing. We've been in Round Rock for 16 years, and I love it. Very involved in the community. So Chestnut Publishing House started because as a writer, I just wanted to give women somewhere where they can release how they feel, release what they know, a creative outlet. Yeah. Because I believe that we all need one, regardless of what that is. And creativity is not just writing or art or those types of things. It's how you dress yourself. So sure. Fashion is creative, makeup. We need those things to tap into that. And so that's why Chestnut was, why it was founded. And I started it because I'm just I actually had a great experience with a publisher in an anthology and reached out to her and said, can you teach me all the things? Because I would like to start one too. And she did. And I love her forever for that.
Wow.
And that's how this got started. But it's for women. We have everyone on the team is woman.
Wow.
Across the globe, Australia, North Carolina, we're very intentional about it being international so we can have different perspectives and a diversity of just insights and that sort of thing. And so, we are going 4 years strong.
That is so
Thank
cool.
you.
So I'd love to know at what point did you decide the time is now, I'm going to start this business?
You- uh, It pays to have the right people around you.
Yeah. Community matters.
Community matters.
Mm,
I had a few friends that were they were encouraging me to do it, and it started really around COVID, so everything was slowing down, right? Well, everything came to a halt.
sure.
And so I started working a lot on my internal
Yeah.
emotional wellness, mental, spiritual. Just, I mean, what else was there to do? Like
Right.
before that, it was everything was football. We were a football family, so we were moving around a lot, going to practices and games and training. And then it was just a halt. I started working on myself. I was writing again, which I
Mm,
had lost the writing because just being a mom and a wife
sure.
and moving around. And when I rediscovered that, having those friends around me, we were on the phone. Zoom was popular, right? So we're always on a virtual call, and they're like, you know what, you should do this.
Yeah.
You should do this. You're already writing, you're building a community for writers. There's a wellness component to it because you're working on yourself. Why don't you bring that into the creativity piece? So
Right.
my friends actually helped me get the courage to do
Yeah.
it, because I was like, wait a minute, that's starting a new business that I know nothing about.
Right.
But they were like, but you do know something about it. You're in marketing at Dell. Like you know all these different things. Just bring
Right.
that into your own.
I
And
love
so,
that.
yeah.
Well, and community makes a huge difference. And that's why community is one of our 7 pillars. And I believe we have different communities that are important.
Mhm.
But as you talked about the pandemic era, that was one of the first things that was taken away from people was community.
Yeah.
And we had to get really creative with still establishing what community looked like. And then sometimes within even those smaller ecosystems of community, like families, there was a lot of division and
Mhm.
divisiveness simply because of difference of opinions and you know you took it upon yourself during that time to look inward. My favorite quote of all time, well, maybe not of all time, but one of my favorite quotes, top 5 at least, is Carl Jung. And he said, those
Mm.
who look outside dream, but those who look inside awaken.
Oh,
And
I love it.
yes, that's so important because I think when I think of your creative space that you help women create, we all have dreams inside of us.
Mhm.
We all have things like I remember when I was a little girl, I was always the teacher. My parents called me Mother Hen. They also called me Little Miss Change My Mind. And I've worked on that one. Like I am now silo
Yeah.
focused, but I always kind of have that teaching spirit. And really, I liked to talk a lot, a
Me
lot,
too.
a lot. And yeah, I would always get in trouble for talking.
Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's that creative energy that was given to all of us. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of times, the world is designed so much to distract us and we think about all of the things we have access to, but so much of that access that we're given to literally takes away our be still time and our
Mm.
quiet time that we like, well, that's not necessary, but really it is. So if you would talk a little bit about what creativity does to us, like taking that time to write or to sing or to, draw or whatever it is to
Mhm.
plan, what that does for you emotionally or mentally.
Yeah, and I think the best way to describe that really is so the book that I'm writing, that I've been writing for forever, but talking about timing. Sometimes,
Mhm.
like when we're writing something, we think it's time, but it's not, because we
Sure.
hadn't lived out everything yet.
Right.
And God is like, no, 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 not yet. You still have some things that need to go in there, so just wait. But it's called "Be Well to Do Well," and
Mm.
that's been the foundation of everything that I do with creative wellness, which is going
Yeah.
internally and going, okay, so there's some things that I need to take care of in here,
Right.
in my heart, in my spirit,
Right.
mentally, emotionally, and then using things like writing to release those things.
Mhm.
Yes, therapy. Yes, having conversations, fruitful conversations with people in your life who give even exchanges. So it's not that you're giving so much and they're taking, but there's a give and take, right? All of that matters.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, but using writing to release those things. So what you're
Mm.
feeling, use whether you go back and read it later or you don't, you tear the pages up, whatever. But it helps with creativity because you're releasing weights.
Right.
You're releasing weights, and then you become more creative because I always give this example of it's hard to focus when you have distractions, right? Let's say in your body, because your body even tells you when it's time to release some things.
Sure.
If you're stressed out or anxious, you may feel it in your stomach, maybe you feel it in your back, you have a pain in your neck, and so your body tells you when it's time to do something
Right.
about it. And a lot of times we're like, oh my God, I just need to take an ibuprofen. But honestly, sometimes it's the emotional weight or things that you're carrying around and you're storing it in your body.
Right.
So what people tell you is to move. They're like, move, do yoga, go walking. And so for me, writing is that type of release. The more
Mm.
you release, the more creative you become because
Right.
you're getting lighter. And
Right.
now you're finding your flow and you're becoming more aware of things emotionally. And I stick a lot with the emotional part because I have found that with women, and I mentioned this earlier, a lot of times our blocks come from emotional weight or our social
Mm-hmm.
relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And most times it's friendships,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Sure.
So yeah.
Especially, I have a child and a friend. They're both empaths, and they're like, Teresa, you just can't feel what I'm feeling, and I'm like, you're absolutely right. I can't. So I started praying for empathy.
Mm.
And let me tell you, be careful what you pray for,
Mm-hmm.
because in the process of getting empathy and having the ability to connect with other people, you have to experience certain things in order to connect with them. And it's so interesting. I saw this post on Facebook last week. A friend, I don't even really know her. Like, actually, I've met her 2 times at a Mary Kay conference, but I don't even know her. And she posted about her mom passing away. And and it was like instantly I was taken back to that moment when my mom passed away. And it was like, whoa, like I felt everything that she felt. And I'm sitting around here thinking, wow, that's maybe what empaths deal with on a daily.
Yes.
And so so carrying other people's weights and feeling what other people feel, that is definitely a gift, but it can also be a very unhealthy exchange too.
Oh, absolutely. And I know because I am one.
Oh,
And I did not know how to process that. Like
yeah.
even in high school, and my mom would just be like, be careful with how much you're taking
How
in.
much you carry for others.
Yes,
Yeah.
because it would really affect me and almost paralyze me sometimes that we would have to pray together because
Yeah.
I was just feeling everything that
Right.
everybody talked to me about.
Right.
And when you're like that, you get used to putting yourself on the back burner and not
Mm,
working through your own
yeah.
because you're feeling so much from
Well,
other
you
people.
can't work. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. When you're carrying everybody, we actually had a conversation about this a little bit at church, not quite empathy, but when we're carrying everybody else's stuff, there's only so much strength, and you're either going to give it away or you're going to internalize it. Well, I want to talk about something that I think is a a block for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And something as you were talking, and I shared my favorite quote with Carl Jung. Um, a lot of people, I feel like, think if I take time for myself, I'm being selfish.
Mm.
And when I was going through my journey of self-reflecting and self-discovery and really my unbreakable life journey, I just didn't know that's what it was going to become. But when I was going through mine, I struggled with that. And I even talked to my therapist about it. And she said, Teresa, the opposite of selfish is selfless.
Mm.
Like, you don't exist. And when we come to a
Mm.
place that we are just giving to others all the time, or we are just feeding other people, or we are just doing those things, we actually are making it to where we don't. And then how effective can we be for people?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can't be. You can't be. I share this a lot because it was such a profound thing. That's why I said the people in your life matters. Your
Mm-hmm.
who matters. I post about that a lot. Your where matters, your who matters. We always focus on the why, but your who matters, who you are connected to matters.
Yeah.
I had 3 friends tell me something back to back. They didn't know each other and still don't. But it was a confirmation every conversation. And I'm just like, but my last friend told me She said, and this was at a period in my life where it was around the time that I was doing some internal work.
Sure.
It's right before I started therapy, actually, but it was just me and God. We were having conversations all the time. I was like digging into myself, because one of the things that I had to focus on was not what other people did to me, but really look internally and go, okay, but what about me was allowing that? So
Sure.
I need to go a little bit deeper. But she
Right.
said to me, she said, Kiosha, I can hear the spoon in your cup rattling. You're so empty.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, you can hear that, because that's exactly how I feel.
Wow.
And so then what good am I to my family? What good am I to the clients that I help? What good am
Right.
I to anybody? Because I wasn't even allowing people to pour into me.
Right.
Like compliments would make me go, okay, like, and so I had to learn how to take that. Like
Right.
to no, you don't have to say, and you too, just take it.
Yeah.
Let people pour into you. And it was very hard for me to do that. But I started to notice my creativity taking all the way off, because God is creative, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So creative. I was just talking about this last night, but animals, fish,
The different
like,
colors. We were at an aquarium. We went to SeaWorld a couple of weeks ago, and I'm like, how awesome is our God that he knew, like he knows I was going to be at SeaWorld today and I was going to admire the beauty of these fish.
yeah,
Like they're in the bottom of the ocean.
right?
Who even sees them? But he knows. He knows that one day we're going to come up and we're going to see something and we're going to admire his beauty. And he's going to say, I did that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for you.
Yes, right. And that's the beauty in that. So we have to also do it for ourselves.
Yeah.
That it is so important that you take the time to feed yourself, that you take the time to be intentional about the relationships that you are in, people who pour into you and you also pour into them. Even exchanges are very important.
Yeah.
But if you don't take the time to feed yourself, then of course you're going to feel a certain kind of way as a mom.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, because that's somebody or people that you're giving into,
Sure.
but you're not giving from anything.
Yeah. And I think so many times too, and I don't necessarily just believe that this is as a mom, but maybe it's as a volunteer
Mhm.
or as a friend or whatever. If you're not taking the time to take care of yourself, so many times what happens is we feel it, our body responds, just like you talked about. We may feel it in our neck or our back or our belly, but our body responds to a place where different emotions come up, like resentfulness or, things like that. And now we're resenting everybody around us. I remember there was this time that, and it happened twice, two different seasons in my life where like when I worked at the bank, and so I was a banker for many, many years, and I had gotten to this place of resentfulness. And anytime the phone would ring, I'm like, oh God, what do you want? And then I had gotten to this place, and this was right before my season of really digging internally and on all of that. And, a family member would call or a friend, it didn't matter who it was, but I was just at this place where I was so probably empty, but so charred and so frustrated because I wasn't doing anything for me. I was always giving to others. It never seemed like it was enough. It always felt like there was more, and that was all internal. But it creates this sense of resentfulness or frustration.
Yeah.
And that's not healthy, like at all healthy, because now instead of loving and serving people, we're literally repelling, people away from us. And I mean, that's like when we really have to take a hard look and say, okay, what is causing this response? And usually one of our emotional needs is not being filled. And most likely all of them aren't.
Yes. And see, that's why I love writing.
Yeah.
And the workshops that I do with organizations mostly, or like boards and stuff, has a lot to do with writing for wellness. Yeah. Using writing to be well, to get well, to do well, to lead well. Because as a leader, that's another area, right? You're giving, and when you're around a lot of people, it can be draining because everybody needs something from you.
Right.
So taking it outside of the family, but into your business, right? People need something from you. Then you have your calendar and you have to schedule this. It's like very draining. So if you don't take time to be still, to unplug, to be in prayer, to take a nap,
Meditate,
to
whatever.
to meditate, whatever it is, to write, to really get to a place where you're like, you know what, okay, so I don't have anything to do this morning, I don't have to wake up early, I'm gonna lay in bed for a little bit so I can listen.
Yeah.
Maybe this is God wanting to spend some time with me. I need to spend some time with him. Or maybe I just need to lay here. My
Right.
body is tired and I really need this rest. Being intentional and really aware, and writing helps you do that, because once you put it down, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's in your face.
Yeah.
You can't run from it. And that's okay. That's what we need to be aware of where we are emotionally.
Yeah. Yeah. With Unbreakable at our events, because when I created this space, one of the things that God really showed me that I needed to create was a place of authentic relationships, a place of, you see these powerful people that are out in the community doing amazing things, like yourself, people like some of our speakers they're out there doing these amazing things. But what we think internally is, I could never be like her. Like, I don't have all my stuff together. I don't look like that when I show up to places. I don't speak like her. And that's what our mind immediately goes to in most occasions. But when you create a space that's around transparency and authenticity, what happens is you're like, oh, like, I didn't have to have it all together. Like, I didn't have to know everything to start a business, a publishing business where like everything has to be accurate and correct.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, you need to be my new BFF, because if you read half of my posts, don't look too closely at them. You might find a couple of grammatical issues.
Oh, mine too.
Yeah, I'm
Because
like,
you're human. We're
done
human.
is better than perfect.
Exactly.
Right? That's been something I picked up. But with the Unbreakable conference, what my goal with designing in the way that it was designed was to give women a place to say, okay, these are my people. Like, I had this, we talked a little bit about, emotional moments, hurts that we've picked up along our journey, broken pieces, things that have just happened to us. And so many times, the enemy in the world, the enemy in our minds, wants to make us feel like we're the only ones. Like, I'm the only one that could possibly, I'm the only one flipping a switch on people. I am the only one that dealt with sexual trauma. I am the only one that, dealt with this situation. I'm the only one that has imposter syndrome. I'm the only, what I mean? It could be anything. I'm the only one battling the secret health issue, whatever that looks like. And by putting a conference together that really gives women a chance to be transparent, to be vulnerable, and to be just their authentic selves, really gives everyone in the room a chance to say, wow, I'm not the only one. And maybe, just maybe, if I turn my eyes inward, and maybe if I do some of those things that all of these powerful women have done with intentionality, with focus, with cutting out distractions, maybe I could step into that power that I've been dimming for so long.
Yeah. And it also teaches you to have more grace for yourself.
Yeah.
Because we will give people a pass all day. Oh, that's okay. That's just how they are. Or, oh, I forgive them. But we have a hard time a lot of times forgiving ourselves or giving ourselves grace. Listen, especially if you have not been taught something. Right. And if you want to go back generationally, generations before us have not been taught many things.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're in a lot of ways, we're the first to be learning things, to really seek after healing, to really pursue peace, like those types of things. If you got to give yourself some grace, you're learning and
it
growing.
Feels like you're going against the grain.
Exactly. It does. But having a community of women where everybody is really walking in as human beings,
right,
who are still learning and still growing, regardless of where they are in their career or their business. You may admire them. That's wonderful. We should have people who we look up to, right? But not at a point where we're sacrificing our own value.
Sure. Or even where we're diminishing who we are.
Exactly.
And I think that's one of the reasons God had me place self-discovery at the beginning of an Unbreakable journey, is because until we are so in love with who we are, it is so easy to pick up jealousy and to pick up, inferior feelings, to be in that comparison mode. And all of those things are just traps, like traps to hold us back and to keep us stagnant and saying, well, if I can't be perfect, or if I can't look like her or act like that or speak like them, then I can't do this thing. And that's just such a lie. So falling in love with who you are uniquely, knowing the internal, cogs of yourself, how God created you individually, and being okay. In fact, being more than okay, being in love with who you are is step number one.
That is step number one. And it honors God.
Yeah.
Because he created you.
Because he created you.
Yeah.
To be exactly who you are. Yes. And I think that gets so twisted in today's world. I really feel like, without going into any other feelings about any other thing, I feel like there's such an attack. There always has been, from the beginning of time, an attack on identity because of, man, you talked about God being creative. He put that same spirit in us.
Yes,
that
he did.
same power in us to speak to the mountain and say move, to speak to that business decision and let it flourish, to speak to that relationship and make it well, to speak to ourselves and heal. He gave us that creative energy. So of course it would be under attack, and we've got to take back our power. In fact, that is the theme of Unbreakable 2024. And I will be talking about the theme for 2025. And those of you that come to our Unbreakable Women's Conference will have a chance to get firsthand knowledge of what 2025 looks like. But 2024, our whole theme for the entire year is, that was the day she decided to become unbreakable. When you come to this event, you will make that decision. I am going to become unbreakable. And that's the day she took back her power. And that's what we do with Unbreakable Women's Conference, is we give women the tools through the conference, through our mentorship program, and through people like Kay and anybody else that comes on this talk show. We're giving people the ability to take back your power and step into your purpose. So
yeah, walk into every room like you know who created you.
Yes.
Like my mom used to say, you should know who you are, but also whose you are.
Whose you
like
are.
who do you belong to?
Yeah.
Who created you? All the things that you're got to give ourselves some grace. As we're learning and moving through this life, there's a lot that we don't know. And the women that you admire that may be at this level that you want to be at, they don't know some things too. Like, are they recently learned something? Are they still growing personally? We see a lot of times people on Instagram, or like social media period, or just, in the building, on the stage, on the whatever, and we go, oh my God, they have it all together. No, we are all consistently and will forever be, as we live, a work in progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember I talked at the conference about a time where it was the beginning of 2020, I believe. And I was in this room. It was not a podcast studio, because God revealed that later. But this was my prayer room. And, if the camera could move, which it can, but it won't, you would see my aquarium over here. And we used to have a couch in here. And this was the place that I would come in. This was the room that I was sitting in when I hit my knees on the ground and said, God, why can't I hear your voice? I was so desperate and frustrated, and in that life and that time and that season of feeling like everybody was attacking me, like it was just like a wounded dog. I mean, to not even sound, but that's how it felt, right? I'm like, why can't I hear your voice? And the answer that I got convicted in this room was, because you're listening to too many other voices.
Oh, that's big.
Yes. And so literally that next year I got bold and I decided to put "Be Still" on my arm. It's tattooed on me. It's time to be still. It's time to, and understand now. And I've always seen that scripture, and I've seen it pretty on people's t-shirts, and never really knew what "be still" meant until I got convicted and said, it's time to be still. It's time to cut out all the noises, all the distractions, all the people that are great people. They're great people, but they didn't know what God had inside of me. And when I was listening to their opinion and their thoughts and picking up their feelings or whatever, all of those things that we do when we don't honor ourselves and honor our creator, it just becomes a distraction and we can't hear all the noises. You talked about not being able to focus. Well, your ears can only hear so many things at one time
Very
too.
true.
Yeah.
Very true.
And all those things feed directly into your heart and are either going to create life or they're going to create death. And, we have to become so careful that we learn to, take that step. So maybe, somebody that's watching tonight hasn't experienced their be still moment yet. Or like what I call, what led to my be still was the wilderness.
Oh, yeah, the wilderness.
It was
I know
hard.
about that.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Trust
Now,
me.
when I talk at my conference about the other stuff, it was in this other room over here. So this room has significant value in the life that we, had and that be still. But the other room talks about all the chaos and all the things that I was trying to juggle and all the hats I was picking up and all those things. And so, I hope that more people can come and do a podcast here in the studio because there's just so much juice in that. And what I learned through that process, and as I helped myself create an unbreakable life, and now I help, hundreds, hopefully thousands of women create an unbreakable life, is that we can't despise the hard. So many times, well, every moment that we have a choice. We can learn from it.
Yeah.
We can embrace it and it can become us, or we despise it and bury it. And I want to encourage you to embrace it and learn from it instead of making it become you, your sole identity, those few things that, people pick up and they're like, well, that's just who I am and I can't be anything better. I can't do anything different. I can't, you just tell yourself all these stories so many times. And I think about the people in the, in the Bible that we listen to, and they do all these great things in one event.
Yeah.
One event. It was like it either propelled them or it's the one thing that people see and they're like, well, and then that murmuring happens, right? I don't want that to be my life. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do things that are stupid. I'm going to learn and I'm going to grow. God said my mercies are new every day.
Every single day.
And every morning is a new opportunity to know more, do more, be better. But we've got to make those choices. And so I hope and pray that we don't despise the hard because, while I don't enjoy the events we went through, I don't enjoy the betrayal. I don't enjoy the hurt. I don't enjoy, all of the things. What I can do is look back at them and say, all right, God, I don't know why that all had to happen. I do remember praying for empathy. Ouch. But now, because I went through those things, I now have more women that I can connect to that I would have never been able to see them, never been able to feel them without having experienced those hard things. And so I think, as we're on this journey and we're on this discussion piece with that, we can't despise the hard. We've got to look back at it, learn from it, and allow our Creator to create beauty from ashes, which is one of the best things He does.
It's one of my favorite songs, actually. And to that point, and gosh, this is so on time what you're saying. Like everything that you're saying is what I've been talking about. It's because it's the season that I'm in. If the sun shined out, we love the sunshine. When the sun is shining outside, it's beautiful. Everybody wants to go outside. You want to be in the, in outdoors. You want to wash your car. Like that's the time to be outside. You feel good emotionally. But if the sun shined all the time, it would dry out crops. It would dry out the grass. Like we need the rain.
Didn't we see that last summer? You think about seasons. I just love that you said this because even in seasonality, last summer was, to me, it was like a holding time.
Yeah.
Like be still. I've learned a lot, but okay, it's not time yet. It's not time to launch. It's not time to go. It's not time to go yet.
Yeah.
Right. But last summer was scorching and it was hot for like 100+ days.
Yeah, it was craziness.
And everything was dead.
It was.
And look at this summer.
It's been raining like crazy. But that's the thing. Like when you talk about do not despise the hard things, that's so true. In this time that you're going through, if there's a storm happening, let it. We need the rain. And in that time, and I'm writing about this right now, you go through a period of in the meantime. So what are you doing in the meantime as you're waiting on God as you're waiting on the manifestation of what you've worked and prayed for? What are you doing in the meantime? right now, like I told you earlier, I'm trust falling. I'm like, okay, I got my arms out. I'm like, God, I trust you. I don't know everything that you're doing, but I trust you because I know you got me. And
Yeah.
as I'm like falling, I'm not really falling.
Right.
Like I am, my trust in you is strengthening.
Right.
My relationship with you is strengthening. And in the meantime, I'm taking care of myself. I'm
And
getting
you're
up, walking.
learning.
Yeah, and you're learning. And growing has pains. Like
Yeah.
that's a real thing in your body. As you stretch,
Right.
you hurt, right?
Right.
It does not feel good. It's uncomfortable. But we need to get uncomfortable because it's out of the comfort zones that we actually see the manifestation of what we've been working and praying for. But that if the sun shine all the time, if everything was perfect all the time, how could we learn? Like in that, how could we grow? Like we need the rain. And so I mean, we see it this summer with all this rain. We're like, oh God, thank you. Because last summer was like
brutal.
it was
Now,
too much.
I do not love the mosquitoes.
Oh, me either. Me either.
But I bet you said you're from Louisiana.
Oh, yeah,
Sure.
mosquitoes.
Were they like this big there?
Oh my gosh, they're big and they're mean. They're way meaner than Texas mosquitoes. Oh, they're huge. But we I love that. I'm gonna take that with me today. Do not despise the hard things. We definitely need to Charles Stanley, who I listened to a lot when I was growing up, he said one thing and it stuck with me. I think I was in my early 20s. And he said, okay, when things are happening, we can go, oh God, oh, what's going, or we can say, God, in this moment, what are you trying to teach me?
Yeah.
And so in this moment, where do you want me to grow? Obviously, you're trying to get my attention.
Right.
And so where do you want me to grow? Perspective. When you shift your perspective and look at things differently, which takes internal work.
It does.
Because
it's not natural.
No, it's not.
And anything that produces fruit usually is not a natural thing. You think about, if we're going to go out and grow some crops next door outside, which you're not in my yard because I'm not a farmer, but if you're going to grow something, you're going to dig up the dirt. You're going to plant a foreign object into that dirt and you're going to wait for a harvest, right? It's not necessarily natural and it doesn't come without digging up some dirt.
Got to do some work.
You got to do some work. And then you plant that seed. And so a lot of times that planting the seed, I think, is through the people that we, relate with and the right communities that people establish. And in our last few minutes, I do want to get into the right communities.
Yes.
Because you talked about the why and the who and the
where.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to talk about the who in just a moment because that's a big topic.
Yes.
But when you think about, the changes and the manifestation of things, there is work associated with it. And so your word earlier, when you talked about intentionality, I got to intentionally dig some stuff out of the way. I've got to plant a seed that's a foreign object to that dirt. Now it will grow with it because that seed wants that dirt.
Right.
And our bodies want that work. Our bodies and our minds and our emotions want that work, but it takes something to make it happen and to plant that seed. So let's transition here for a moment and talk about the who, because, they've always say that you become the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And I really believe that so much. Because when you're talking to them, your thoughts become their thoughts. And, I just was reminded of a scripture that his ways are greater than my ways. His thoughts are greater than my thoughts. And so number one, I need to be spending time with him if I want to elevate my thinking. But in a physical sense and in a natural sense, not a spiritual sense, the people that we hang out with, our thoughts become their thoughts or their thoughts become our thoughts. And sometimes, just like we got to cut the cord with our... Sometimes we have to cut some cords around people. And it's hard because you love the people.
Yeah.
You just know in your knower that if you're going to go where you're supposed to be going, they can't go with you.
They can't go with you. And there's that part, right? That everybody can't go with you. But it's also hard to accept that everybody does not want to go. When you start healing, I know, like you start your healing journey and you're like, I'm on fire. I mean, I think about, back in the day,
Back in the day, I was a beach body coach.
Oh, okay.
Girl.
So I can already picture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was totally like, exercise 3 days times, not 3 days, 3 times a day, 7 days a week, even on a holiday. And, drink Shakeology, which I love, by the way. Anyway, all good things, all good things. But, and people were like, all right,
they're like, tone it down
a little bit. Like, I don't care. I want to enjoy my XYZ. Shut up, Teresa. Not everybody wants to be on a journey with you.
Yeah, not everybody wants to be, and that's okay.
It is okay.
It's okay because but
don't let it slow down your journey.
No, don't let it slow down your journey. And also, but it's very hard, especially in friendships, if you have history with people and you've gone through the early stages of growing with them. And then there comes a point where you may start to grow apart. Mm-hmm. And people think when you say grow apart, 9 times out of 10 people are thinking just about marriage. No, it happens in friendships. Yeah. It happens in different relationships, because if you're working on your internal and you're growing and you're healing and you're becoming more aware and they're not, it's possible that this can start to happen. There's separation, but you can still love.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can still love, but you do have to be careful who you have conversations with. You do have to be careful as you're working on your mindset, as you're working on your heart. Because we talk a lot about mindset and, be kind to your mind, but don't forget about your heart.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't forget about your heart. You really do need to address those things that are internal. And so it happens where you start to separate, things start to separate. But the beautiful part about social well-being to me is as you continue to work on yourself, God starts to bring you people on that journey.
Right.
Right. You get in a community of people, I'll say specifically women, because we work a lot with women, but you start to get so now you start to move out of this cattiness. So you're not around catty people anymore. You're like, oh, what is that? I like that. We're actually supporting each other.
Wait, we're cheering?
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah. What is this?
I'm like, I literally, no joke. One of my friends, I was sitting with her at Chipotle one day, and this is when I was just getting used to people pouring into me, right? Because I've always been a pourer. Yeah. And so I was just getting used to that. And I said to her, this is so crazy to say it, but I just was like, I looked up and while we were sitting at the table, I was like, I'm feeling like, I don't know, am I dying or something? Like, why are these people? I had text messages and messages from women who were like, thank you for saying what you said yesterday. Thank you for going live, or thank you for what you said on that webinar. And I wasn't used to that because I was the one who was doing the pouring. Not that I didn't have anybody pouring into me, but the closest relationships, it wasn't really like that, right? I loved them and they loved me, and still today I do love them. Mm-hmm. But it was just different. And it's because God started, as I continue to work on myself, just bringing women who were aligned with where I was going. And you got to be accepting of that. And you can still love, you can still pray for, you can still be at peace with people who are not with you anymore.
Right.
It's okay though. And we gotta, it's all about, we have to trust God that he knows better. He knows more.
Yeah.
And where he's bringing us, he's going to provide, whether that's finances, friends, support, it doesn't matter. And that's why community is important. That's why the who is important. That's why what you're doing is important, because you're bringing women into the space who are coming from different backgrounds, have different lived experiences, may own a business, but maybe at different scales in the businesses. Right. But it's all encompassing in that it's like, hey, you come exactly how you are because we want you to show up as you.
Right.
And in the meantime, as you're in this space with everybody, you can grow, you can learn, you can connect, you can create, collaborate. Like all of these things are in one space, and we need that. Like community is very important. Your who matters.
Your who does matter, and taking control over that, taking power of, taking back your power when it comes to your community. That doesn't mean that we get an iron fist and we push everybody away. That's not what it means. But it does. And there are certain communities that, sometimes we have segments in communities.
Yeah.
Like, we have, Royal and I have our church community, which, we do church with, we do our spiritual growth with, but we don't necessarily do other parts of our life with. Not that we wouldn't, but that community serves that really important purpose in
Yeah.
our life. And then I have our Unbreakable Life community, and that is a powerful community. And then we have our business community
Mm-hmm.
where we're developing skills of business, and we're building a marriage community. And so different communities, right, serve
Mm-hmm.
different purposes and different needs in our lives. And maybe you don't have 5 communities. Cool. Have one.
Yeah.
Find one.
Yeah.
Because what will happen is, and I will teach this some more at the Unbreakable Conference, is that we have been conditioned as a people over the last 5 years, almost 5 years, to live in a life of safety, security, and survival mode.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is where we've been conditioned. And literally the one thing that brings us out of security, safety, and all of that into our discovery and our purpose of ourselves is community. That
Yeah.
is the one thing. That is the bridge for that gap between survival and just making it and taking care of me to, aha, I am who I am and I'm taking care of others. That gap is filled with community. So community is so important. And when we reflect on how almost, I believe, actually, not almost, I believe that it was intentionally taken away from us for destruction and division. We get to take our power back and reestablish what community looks like.
Yeah, because we need that if it was meant for us to grow and learn and live alone, then it would just be you.
Right.
Like, it's not just you. There are like-minded people who are waiting, who are available, who are equipped, who are called,
who
are
need each
assigned.
other.
Yeah, they are assigned to you. But if you, because of past experiences or because of your personal relationships that failed, if you're just not necessarily using that, but if that is where you're like, oh no, because my friendships didn't work, and so I'm scared, especially women, to get in a relationship with other women. The reality is, and this is such a myth, that women can't get along and we don't support each other. That's not true. If you are in a community or you are in relationship with people who don't take that on as that's every woman. That's not the case. We do support each other. We do uplift each other. There are women who will celebrate you and clap for you and hug you and cry with you and listen to you and not give you unsolicited advice. Like, all of that actually exists.
It does exist.
It exists.
With intention, though.
Yes.
With the intention of getting healed first. Because when you're at the breaking point, it's really hard to be authentic and whole for anybody else.
Exactly. You have to start with yourself first.
Yeah.
You have to. Because if not to, you show up with the lens and you look at things through the lens, or you hear things through this filter of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if someone didn't intentionally say something to hurt your feelings, you're going to feel that way because you're not dealing with what's already here. So then it's also, you're walking around. What's the quote that heal so that you're not bleeding on others? It's something like that.
Yes.
And that's a real thing. So you actually deserve the be still moment.
We do.
Yeah.
And you've got to make time for it. And it could be 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be a whole year. Like mine was a whole year, but I believe God made it that because there was a lot that had to be developed.
Yeah, same.
And I don't know that everybody necessarily requires that. I was all kinds of messed up. No, I'm just kidding. But
I was emotionally, I was all over the place.
There's so many things. And, and yet at the same time, on the surface, we had it all together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we didn't. No, we didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't.
That's hard too, when people think you have it all together and you're like, oh my gosh, if you only knew how hard I cried this morning, how long, like if you only knew the breakdown that was happening. And so that goes to my point of, it's very important that we see each other as human
and not say, I have this person that's been in my life for a long time who would always call me Superwoman. And I know the intent was as a compliment, but it fed into it literally fed into that feeling of, gosh, I forgot the word I want to use. But when you're imposter syndrome, it
Yeah.
literally fed into that
Oh yeah.
imposter syndrome. And we don't even realize that the words that we say sometimes feed into somebody else's imposter syndrome. So instead
Mm.
of calling somebody a superhero or, which is kind, but instead, how about just saying, "Hey, I love you."
Yeah.
Like, how are you doing? And genuinely, and not putting, and I will say I did talk about this in the Unbreakable online community yesterday, and that was when you see something you admire in somebody, tell them,
Oh.
because we sometimes,
Mm.
even just as humans, we have a need to know that we're making a difference, because one of our core desires is to be significant, whatever that looks like for you, right?
That's
And
very
so when
true.
you know that somebody is doing something that you just admire, tell them. um, and at the same time, though, we want to have that grace for the other person and not put something on top of them that keeps them from being transparent, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's really loaded, because it's like, do this, but don't do that. Do this, but
But it's true.
yeah,
It's true. It's loaded, but it's true. It's so true. And I love that you said that, because we should also too, when people seem like they have it all together, instead of, like you said, saying you're a supermom, you're a superhero, you all these things. What's another good question is, how can I support you?
yes,
Because that person a lot of times probably hear, oh, you do all the things, oh, you're
yeah,
so great, you're
which means I'm picking up more.
exactly, I'm picking up more. And that, because that imposter syndrome can really get and go, oh my god, I don't know if I can. When you say to them, how can I support you, sometimes that's for that person like a
Right, right. I don't have to have it all
I
together,
don't have to have it all
and
together.
she's in my tribe. Like,
Yes.
she's in my court. She wants to support. And when you do that, and I think this is a challenge for a lot of women as
Mm,
well, is asking for support.
yes.
But going back to my previous comment about each one of us have a strong desire to feel significant. If nobody ever asks me to help them with something because they're afraid
Mm,
I've got too much on my plate or whatever it is, then that stops me from being able to be significant in your life, right? It doesn't give me an opportunity to support something that you're doing.
yeah.
And so I encourage you, when you need help, ask for it. Ask the right people,
Yeah.
obviously. And you know that by your community and by your tribe and all
Hmm.
of that. But don't be afraid and feeling like you have to take it all on by yourself, because, you know, there were 12 disciples.
Right.
There were 12 tribes of Israel. Like, it wasn't
Exactly.
one. We are supposed to work together.
Yeah, we're supposed to be in community.
Yeah.
We are supposed to be in community. And
Yeah.
and once you embrace it, once you are in it's just so beautiful to watch.
Mm-hmm.
To watch women show up for each other. So beautiful. And you know what? If you're in community right now and it's not the right one, unbreakable.
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable. And even what you named it, right? What
Mm-hmm.
it's called. Um it's such a statement. It's
Mm-hmm.
such a movement,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very important. And so you got to get around, even with the name of things, pay attention to what people are naming things.
Right.
Pay attention,
Right.
because all of that is intentional, right?
Right.
And you want to be intentional because God is intentional. And even in how he creates and what he creates, he's intentional. This is intentional. Unbreakable is intentional. Your show is intentional. How you move throughout the world is intentional. And so, that the community that you're building is intentional, and I think it embraces, I mean, you alone, just if y'all have not like been in her presence and met her, there's no way for you to really look at anything that you're doing and not know that it's intentional, not know that it's authentic, and not know that you really believe what you're saying, and you're creating this community of women who are going to embrace other women and pull them in and say, I got you, girl. I love you. We're here together. Let's grow together. You're crying. We're going to cry together.
Yeah.
Are you failing at something right now? Are you learning? Because even that, changing the language, but having people to bounce things off of, having a sounding board, having people to hug you through it all. That's important. And as women, we need that. Men need it too.
Right.
But as women, we definitely need that, because we have to debunk this myth that we don't show up
Right.
for each other.
Right.
We do.
Right. Right. Well, thank you for that kind compliment and your support for Unbreakable. That means
You're
a lot to me.
welcome.
And, when once you go through some of the things in establishing an unbreakable life, God, it's so easy to take all those things and say, oh, that's the purpose.
Mm.
And one of the things that, kind of made me cringe when I was growing through hard times was hearing, well, there's a purpose in this. Well, there's a purpose in this, because when you're going through it, that just feels like a little salt on a wound.
Yeah, it's like stuff people say.
Like,
You're like,
rude.
okay.
Like, you walk through it and tell me what your purpose is,
Exactly.
But when you grow through it,
yeah,
you can look back and you can see the purpose in the pain. You can see the purpose in all of those things. And I'm sorry, you can see it if you're willing.
Yeah.
It's a choice.
Yes, you choose to.
We choose to.
Yeah.
Because I very easily could have made a different choice. But by the grace of God and by those times of be still and by those convictions on my heart, it's more important to me that I get to use those things to unchain others than it is that I hold on to that hurt and bitterness. It doesn't do anything for me. And it certainly doesn't allow my Creator to make beauty from ashes. So anyway, when you think about that and you create those things, and I have found my purpose in it. I found it through these things. And that is why it's so easy to get 100% behind it and pour everything into it. We used to have this saying that you throw your heart over the line. And like, there was a line on my floor, like, I'm throwing my heart over the line. Because when you know that you know that you know that's what you're doing, it's great. Yeah. But it takes a journey to even get to that place where you know that you know. Otherwise, we literally find ourselves being ineffective, right? And I don't want that for anybody. I certainly don't want it for my children. I don't want it for my family, for my spouse, or for any of the people that God connected me with, because He was in tension with connections. Yeah. And if He found it worth you to connect with me and me to connect with you, then there's power in that. And we need to support each other. So anyway, well, Kay, I am so grateful that you said yes to being on this show with me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you for creating this space. And authenticity is a word that will never die.
Yeah.
That's, it was numb to it. It was like, oh, you gotta be authentic, live your authentic life, but that's a real thing. Right. And it is, I love that you add that to what you do and just give women a space to just be themselves, right, and love them through it. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're so welcome. Well, friends, thank you for joining us on the Seven Pillars Talk Show. And I do hope that you will come and meet Kay in person at our final Unbreakable Women's Conference, which is on August 22nd at the downtown Austin Women's Club at the Chateau Bellevue, I believe is how you say it. Ooh, it's kind of French.
It is. It fits.
It fits. It fits. So actually, it is very French, but it's a beautiful location. And I think you will find that being part of this unbreakable journey will be well worth the time, and what you receive out of it could just, be limitless. But thank you for joining us on the Seven Pillars Talk Show. Can't wait to see you next week. Thank you, Kay.
Thank you.
To all of our listeners, God bless you, and go out and build your unbreakable life. See you soon.